The question I was curious the most about the Hunger Games was, how did they ever come up with the idea to have a scoreboard in the games? What kind of genius does it take to come up with such an innovative idea? Scoreboard in a game? What? This is the type of dumb shit that makes me hate prequels so much. It's already common sense to have a scoreboard in a game. It doesn't matter that Coriolanus went like, oh, maybe we should have a scoreboard, and everyone else goes like, what? Write it down, write it down! It's so pointless to try to show trivial details like that. It doesn't matter. And this book is filled with dumb shit like that, but also it's not as bad as I initially thought it would be. Don't get me wrong, it's still bad, and we'll talk about it all in this video. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins is a prequel to the Hunger Games. It takes place during the 10th Hunger Games and follows the young Coriolanus Snow, who is President Snow in the Hunger Games novels. In this book, he's an 18-year-old student at the Capitol. He lost his parents at the war. His father was a war hero. Now he lives with his grandmother and cousin, and they're kind of broke. After the war, the capital is having a difficult time getting itself together, and there are still rebels attacking. Things are not as stable for the capital as we saw in the original book. They're trying to make the Hunger Games more appealing to the public. For the first time, they're having mentors for the tributes. They assign students from the academy for each tribute, and Coriolanus is assigned to the District 12 girl. But if he can win the games, he can get awarded some money and he can go to university. So he decides he will do whatever it takes to get his tribute to win the games. This book is basically trying to show that President Snow had an impact on developing the Hunger Games since he was a teenager. The effect he had is supposed to feel significant, but it's actually completely trivial in the sense that it's already implied in the original story. The exact moment of influence doesn't matter because it doesn't add anything in a dramatic sense. Like, it doesn't matter that Coriolanus randomly suggests, oh, how about we have betting in the game to engage people? No shit, Sherlock. How incompetent are the game designers to need to get this idea from a teenager? Is there no actual sport in this world? This book sort of establishes it takes place in our world, but in the future. So they must have some info on sports. So the number one reason this book is pointless is because it's trying to answer questions nobody asked for. There's an I hate sand moment for Coriolanus where he's like, ew, mockingjays? Jabberjays are kind of okay, but mockingjays are gross. So yeah, remember the mockingjay from the books? Now you know why Snow hates mockingjays so much more. In one instant, Coriolanus goes like, how about just hear me out. This might sound super strange, but instead of starving the tributes, let's have people send them food so they can actually fight. And everyone is like, genius. There's a similar moment for the parade and interviews too. None of it matters. All of it is common sense anyway. It can be the same thing if Snow and a bunch of people sat around a table and came up with these ideas. What does matter is their effect, which we already saw in the original story. Obviously, the reason why people can't send gifts to the tributes is for interactivity. Obviously, they're having this parade and interviews to make them more appealing to the public, and the public responds like insane. It's not just the government, right? The public is part of it. Without the support from the people of the capital, the Hunger Games is nothing. And all these ideas are far more clearly seen in the original books. So the second reason why this book is pointless is it doesn't have anything new to say. It's saying the exact same thing as the original books, but in a much worse way. Because even though you see the half-ass reasons how they came up with the rules of the game, what really matters is their ultimate effect. The next pointless thing about this book is something completely trivial, but it annoyed the shit out of me, so we're gonna talk about it. So how Snow has a motto, and it says, Snow lands on top. It's the cringiest thing ever. Every time someone said Snow lands on top, I wanted to punch them in the face. How fucking self-indulgent are you? You know how normal people write all my best or sincerely at the end of letters? Snow's and letters with SLOT, Snow lands on top. Are you freaking stupid? I'll try to give you a few examples to show you how dumb this is. Imagine your roommate's name is Jeremy Hunter. You call Jeremy and be like, hey Jeremy, grocery store was out of milk. Can you check a few other places to see if you can find some? And Jeremy is like, Hunter always tracks his prey. You roll your eyes to the back of your head for the 15th time today. Or like your friend's name is Tim Walker, and you're like, hey Tim, we'll miss the plane. Can you hurry? And he's like, Walker need not hurry. Or imagine Taylor Swift. Every time she has a #1 hit, she goes like, Swift always comes first. How obnoxious that would be. Or your friend Kevin Knight always goes like, Knight keeps honor first. You're a kindergarten teacher. You're not actually a knight. It's just a last name. Don't be so full of yourself. Now imagine he also ends his letters saying KKHF. It's so fucking dumb. No wonder why Snows have no friends. It needs to end. It's so pointless. I probably got annoyed more than I should, but it's dumb. Like having a general house motto about your ideals would be one thing. But this is just pure cringe. It just doesn't do anything character-wise, but this book isn't even a character study. One reason is no one cares about Coriolanus Snow. He was not the type of complex villain as in some books. And I'm not even talking about redeemable villains. I'm talking about someone like the Joker, for example. The Joker is an interesting character. He has fans. People are interested to know how the Joker became the Joker. But I don't think there were any fans of President Snow. Am I wrong here? He was just a one-note mustache-twirling villain anyway. He was just an evil guy. Nobody cared about him, so it makes no sense to show his high school years. It's just pointless. If this book was supposed to show a regular teenager turn into a psychopath, that doesn't happen either. There's a switch somewhere towards the end, which is so out of nowhere for something completely trivial. One moment he's in love with someone, the other moment he's like a freaking psycho. It felt really awkward to me. I do like that he is ambitious and willing to put his ambitions before anything else. But is that even new? We already know he is ambitious. We have already seen this character at his worst. It doesn't add anything to say, oh, he was always ambitious. It's not new. I mean, fine, I guess. The thing I was the most curious about Snow was that he has a granddaughter. So I was like, was there a time he was actually in love, had a family or something? I mean, not that there needs to be a story there, but apparently there isn't anyway. Apparently why he likes roses is more interesting. It's such a trivial reason. His grandmother had a rose garden. But like there's already a far more interesting reason in the books. He poisons his allies, so he has to drink the poison himself too. But even though he takes an antidote, it still damages his mouth, so he wears a genetically engineered rose to hide the smell. That's an interesting fucking story there. Not that his grandmother had a stupid rose garden, so now he likes roses. I don't know, maybe she'll write more Snow books, but this book is sold as the Hunger Games book 0. So I guess not, unless they mark the next book as Hunger Games book 0.5, which is dumb but not impossible. I honestly thought this book was going to be much worse though. I thought it would be like, oh, Snow was a good person but the society failed him. Thankfully, it's nothing like that. He already was an asshole. The girl from District 12 is kind of interesting, Lucy Gray Baird. She makes an incredible entrance and it's downhill from that point on, so there isn't much there either. The ending is just weird. It's not really a cliffhanger, but like it sort of suggests there needs to be another book to tie these things up. Not that I care about it, but a lot of things are left hanging without resolution. Although they don't necessarily need to be resolved. It can just be what it is. So I guess the last reason why this book is pointless is because we already know what happens. This is a general problem with prequels, but it is what it is. I think for a prequel to work, it needs to focus on the story of someone we don't know. But yeah, these are my thoughts on this book. I think it's pointless and shouldn't exist. Actually, here's how I think this book was written. Suzanne Collins came up with the idea for the Hunger Games first, and she was trying to come up with a backstory for how they might have come up with different elements of the game. She was like, oh, maybe they decided to have drones bringing gifts, maybe they have interviews with the tributes, maybe they had betting. She had all these ideas and she was like, you know what? It's much more interesting to have the story happen at a time where the games are already established much more. So she did that. And then one day she was checking out her old notes and she was like, meh, I guess I'll just use these notes to write a fanfic backstory for my book. Why not? So now we have this book. Also, what's up with this terrible cover, guys? Come on, we can do better than a green target board with a very large bird or a very small snake on a branch. The bird is turning its head like in The Exorcist, I guess. Anyway, I still have to say it wasn't the disaster I thought it could have been. It's read fast. It's brutal at times, like the original. You don't need to have read the original books to read this. You can just read this one, but it wouldn't add anything to your experience. It would probably make it worse. Particularly the last third of the book was really boring for me. The beginning is relatively fun and interesting actually. But I'd love to know what you thought about this book in the comments. If you found this video fun, please leave a like to let me know. And don't forget to subscribe if you'd like to see more reviews from me. And I'll see you next time.